Welcome. We're going to talk about a few different kinds of coffee preparation today. The French press is one of the classics. We're also going to talk about the pour over, which is one of the more popular kinds of coffee preparation today. And then we'll also be getting into Vietnamese coffee. And then later we'll do some videos on things like different kinds of tea. We've got mate over there from Argentina. We've got a couple of other different kinds that we'll deal with. Let's jump into the French press. So first of all, you're going to need one of these guys, and they come in different sizes. This one's an 8 cup, I believe. And we're going to need 56 grams of coffee to use this French press. So I'm going to put my cup on, turn on the scale, get a digital scale here. Now, I turn it on after I put the cup on, so that when I turn it on, it's at 0. I'm not including the weight of the cup in the configuration. So we're going to do 56 grams. That's 57 right there. Oh my god, 57. We can't have that. I'm going to take out. Okay, I'm going to take out 2 beans at a time. Oh man, look at that. Almost. Oh, it's 56. Great. Alright. Oh, it went you see, it just went back up to 57. One more bean. Just one. Yep, now it's at 56. You see? That's the kind of discipline you need to be a master coffee maker. Alright. Okay, now, I'd recommend when you're choosing a coffee bean, find something that has a brew date, or not a brew date, a roast date on it. It should be something that's, probably been roasted within the last maybe 2 or 3 days. You don't want to brew coffee that's been roasted within the last 48 hours. You want to give it some time to breathe, and then, after the 48 hours, then you can grind it and roast it like that, or grind it and brew it. Okay, this does not have a brew date on it, but we're going to give it a shot anyway. And I'm going to put this in our grinder. Alright, now, one of the most important parts about making coffee is the grinder. And it's one of the most overlooked. Now, the consumer kind of grinder is called a blade grinder. And basically what it does is it spins around in circles and it chops up the beans. What you get is a variety of sizes of particles, small, medium, large, or fine, I guess medium, and then they call them boulders, which are the large ones. Each one produces a different flavor. The smaller ones, and I could be wrong on this one, smaller ones produce a more acidic flavor, the larger ones produce a more a bitter flavor, but right in the middle is where you get that sweet spot. That's where you get the real flavor of the coffee that you're looking for. Now, of course, sometimes you want the larger pieces, but you still want that sweet spot, so you're going to adjust the temperature of the water to make that work. Anyway, now this is a kind of a prosumer model coffee grinder. It's higher end than the blade grinder. These run typically anywhere from $100 to I believe up to $500 for a prosumer model. This one's normally $240, but I got it for $80. So, Craigslist. Anyway, this is considered a canonical burr grinder. It has blades inside that adjust to different sizes. I'm going to put my coffee in, first of all. Our 56 grams right on the money. Put this on the top. Now, I've already set this at 28. So for this particular grinder, this is the Virtuoso by some company or other. They say they recommend 28 setting for the French press. You're going to want a larger size granule of coffee bean, or of the coffee grind, for the French press, because you're dealing with a screen and you don't want the coffee grinds coming through the screen and mixing with the actual coffee itself. So, without further ado. Okay. Now, basically, sorry. So you can probably cut. All right. Now, the other important part of this equation is the water temperature. Now, you never want to boil the water, and the reason is, well, if you go back to like Chinese philosophy on this, especially when you're dealing with tea, is if you boil the water, you've killed the water, and you don't want to do that. But also, if you boil the water for coffee, it's going to turn the taste really super bitter. The highest I think you ever want to go is 206, and you would do that for larger particles. So in this case, we're actually going to do 206. Oh, and look at that. The temperature is 206 degrees right now. You know, I mean, you got this guy that's prepared for these videos. It's just amazing. So anyway, so we've got the water up to 206. Make sure the water is filtered. You can filter several times. Something especially that it's going to take the chlorine out of the water. I would personally recommend the Berkey water filter system because I'm a Berkey representative, and you can give me all your money. Thank you very much. No, I'm not really a Berkey representative. I don't even own a Berkey, but I have used them in the past. I have a friend who has one, and they do work fantastic. So anyway, it does a good job, and I would recommend something like that if you're going to be making a lot of coffee and tea and stuff like and such. Okay, so our water is heated. We've got our coffee grinds. I'm going to just pour them in there. I guess it goes without saying that this should be clean. Settle the beans a little bit, the grinds. First thing we'll do is just take our water kettle here, pour a little bit of water around the coffee grinds, and then let it sit. What's going on here is you got what's called a bloom, where you put some water on the coffee, and then you let the carbon dioxide escape. I might have done just a little bit too much water there. And actually, this is something that you do with a pour over most commonly, and I just do it with a French press because I'm that kind of guy. Alright, and this goes for about 30 seconds, más o menos, and then we're gonna add the rest. I like to just kind of keep agitating the coffee a little bit here. Right around. It does really help to have a kettle with this kind of spout, and especially when we get into the pour over, you'll see how important this is. Okay, it's a couple inches from the top, maybe an inch and a half from the top, and the next thing we have to do is stir this in a little bit, stir the coffee grinds in. I use a chopstick for this. And then you take the top. Now I've got this separated because I just cleaned it, and so what you'll have to do after you clean it is let it dry a little bit. Thank you. Thank you to my wonderful assistant here. You let it dry. You clean these separate parts, and then you put them back together like this. Screw it in a little bit. And that ensures that you get all the the grinds and all the residue out so that this can, the water can flow freely through the screen. Okay, just set this on top and do not plunge it. Let it sit for about 3 minutes, something like that. Alright, so I said 2 or 3 minutes earlier. Actually, it's 4 minutes. And we're almost at that point. We got to be right on the money, so specific. I did not just set this timer for 15 seconds. And we're ready. And we push the plunger slowly down. If you force it, the coffee grinds will slip past the screen and get into the coffee. No fun there. In general, you should never force anything in life. And there you have it. Philosophy through coffee. Now, there's good things and bad things about the French press. The good thing is you get the oils from the coffee beans. They stay in the coffee and they add flavor to it, richness, whereas, for example, the pour over will take those oils out through the filter. The bad thing that people criticize the French press for is that even though you plunge those coffee beans to the bottom, the coffee beans are still at some rate being extracted from, and after a time it's going to turn bitter and it's going to start kind of contaminating that good flavor of the French press. So there's a solution to this, and it's called dun 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 what do you call these things?
Thermos.
Oh, it's a thermos, that's right. You know, English is not my forte. Alright, there's a kind of a built-in screen in here. I'm just going to pour this out of the French press so it stops extracting. You can also use a carafe. That's actually the word I was looking for, but this is not a carafe. This is a thermos. Either way, it's going to keep the coffee warm for a nice long time, and it'll stop the extraction process. There we have it, French press coffee. Alright, so now we're doing pour over coffee, and there's a few different styles of pour overs. You could find plastic, glass, this one's ceramic here. You can find them in different sizes as well. Now, you want to match the filter to the pour over. In this case, we've got a number 2 filter. This is from Walmart. This is the biggest piece of junk filter that you could ever buy. Don't buy it. It's a sin that I have bought this. I've supported this company. These are bleached. They're trash. They're horrible. For the love of God, don't ever buy these. And I'm not even a coffee snob, but it's just, you know, anyway. But we're going to use it today because I'm broke. And, you know, typically I like to do it unbleached, and then there's some you can buy that are like 60% made of bamboo. Bamboo grows so quickly, it's extremely renewable, so it's a lot better for the environment too. And I'm one of those guys. You want to wet the filter. You want to get all that nice bleach out of the filter. And you can use that water that's going through there, you can use that, you know, kind of collect it and put it in your swimming pool. Alright, anyway. It was a long night last night. I was doing Uber, so, you know, like, I drove for like 21 hours, and today I'm paying the price. Alright, where's my coffee beans? Oh, okay. So I already ground our coffee, and now I use the canonical bird grinder for this as well. For the French press, it was a bigger grind. It was at a 28, and this one's at a 20. It's a medium grind. We're just going to pour this in here. This is not a lot of coffee that I've put in here. And the reason is because my brother and I here have been drinking tons of coffee already. It's already having an effect, so we're not going to brew too much today. Now, we did the bloom last time. We're going to do that again here. I made a little bit of a divot in the coffee grinds there, because what we wanted to accomplish is to get the grinds up along the sides so that when the water is extracting the coffee from and the coffee is extracting the grind, from the grinds, it's doing so evenly. All right, so we're gonna get that bloom. There we go. We'll let that sit for 30 seconds, and we're gonna stop the camera so we can laugh a little bit. All right, it's been about 30 seconds, and really a lot of the carbon dioxide's evaporate out of this. I suspect if a coffee's been recently roasted, it's going to have more of that carbon dioxide in it. You're going to get a lot more of the bloom. If it's been sitting on a shelf in a grocery store, probably all that is kind of dissipated. You're not going to get much of a bloom, and that's that's fine. But it'll kind of give you a gauge of how fresh the coffee is as well. Now we're just going to go around in circles here, starting from the middle, going toward the outside, but never quite reaching the outside. We don't want to knock that coffee back down to the center. We'll just slowly out and back to the middle. And as I get up toward the top, I'm going to slow it down even more and just kind of keep a consistent pour going. Now this is, I think it's kind of, like you might feel the urge to rush this process, and I encourage you instead to kind of almost treat this as like a meditation. Just take that chance to just breathe and enjoy. Relax. Don't think about anything else. Just focus on this process. Adjust. It's not moving too quickly, so I slow down the pouring. You kind of want to watch too and see. Right now we've got this bit of a foam on the top. That's good. That's what we want. When that foam starts to disappear, really the coffee's done at that point. And you don't want to keep extracting, otherwise it's going to turn it bitter. I didn't put much coffee in here. It's not going to last that long. And God knows I don't need any more coffee than I've already made, so I'm going to stop there and let it finish out. Doesn't take that long to go down. Now underneath it I've got a glass kind of carafe away. They're not that expensive. If you're going to be serving a lot of people, I'd highly recommend it. And if you're going to be serving a lot of people, I'd probably recommend getting a larger pour-over system. And then it'll hold more coffee grinds, and you can get more of the coffee up on the sides. As opposed to this, if you try to put a lot of coffee into this thing, a lot of it's going to pool in the middle. It's going to back up the water. It's just going to sit there and kind of turn the taste as something undesirable. So we're letting it go down, and that's really all there is to the pour over. So we're going to cut it there, and then we'll do Vietnamese coffee next. Okay, so if you're looking for more of a kind of an exotic coffee, and especially a sweet coffee, Vietnamese coffee is pretty cheap to make, pretty easy. You can get different grades, but all of it is so inexpensive, you might as well just go with the best. I've never seen, personally, whole bean Vietnamese coffee. It's always come in a can, ground. Not to say that there isn't whole bean coffee that you could grind yourself, but anyway, I've gone with this premium, the premium blend over here. Now, one of the key ingredients for the Vietnamese coffee is sweetened condensed milk. in this case, I've decided to go with sweetened condensed coconut milk, and there's a couple of reasons for this. One is it's non-dairy, so if anybody is lactose intolerant, they can use this. They can still enjoy a nice Vietnamese coffee with this. It's better for the environment because you're not dealing with animals and cows and stuff like that. It's also lasts longer in the refrigerator. Sweetened condensed milk, once you open it, doesn't typically last very long. But this kind of outlasts by at least 2 or 3 times the length of the sweetened condensed milk. And honestly, I like the flavor quite a bit too. Alright, we're going to get a nice heaping spoonful. Adjust it to whatever you need, or whatever your tastes are. We'll just... boom. We got it in there. The water temperature for Vietnamese coffee is lower than what you do with American coffee, like French press or pour over. Once again, the French press is at 206 degrees. Pour over is 200, 201, something like that. This one's going to be between 185 and 195. So I already set the water at 190, and we are good to go with that. The next thing to do is we need kind of 3 heaping scoops of our coffee here. And I just position this right over the can because sometimes some of the grinds will go through the Vietnamese coffee maker and then you got to clean up a mess, but in this case it just goes right back in the can. No problema. There we go. There's our 3. It's actually a little bit much, so I'm going to take just a bit out, put it back in, shake it. Now in this case, we have a style of Vietnamese coffee maker that where this part screws down onto a kind of a, I don't know if you can see this, but I'm going to take this off for a second. You see this, it's got threads here. This part just screws down onto that. Not all of them screw on. Some of them, they just sit on the top, and really that's all you need. In this case, we're just going to screw it down until you feel a little bit of resistance, not much. Okay, and we're going to leave it there. The reason you don't want to screw it down much is because if you compact that coffee, once you pour the water in, the coffee expands, and then the water is not going to go through into the cup. So a little bit there. It's ready to set on top of our cup. Next part of the process is really important. All we're going to do is pour just about maybe 20 milliliters of water, something like that. Just a little bit. Let it go through. We'll let it sit for maybe somewhere around 30 seconds. This expands the coffee. And a lot of times, if you don't do this, what will happen is when you start pouring the water, it'll force coffee grinds right through the bottom into your coffee cup. And then when you get toward the end of your cup, you're going to get a nice healthy swig of coffee grinds, and that's just never fun. Alright, it's set about long enough. We're just going to slowly pour over, around in circles. I'm going to fill it up a little bit more than people might normally. And then put this on top. Now in Vietnam, of course, it's extremely hot, but over here, we have different seasons in Chicago, so when it's cold out and this room is kind of chilly in the winter, what I'll do is I'll put this next to a heater to keep it warm while it's going through, because it does take a little while to kind of seep through down into the cup, and if it's cold in the room, then it's very possible that when you're ready to drink your cup of coffee, it's going to be lukewarm. And if you don't like lukewarm coffee like me, if you want it kind of hot, just keep it next to a heater and keep that temperature right around 185, 190 degrees, something like that. Alright, so it's been a couple minutes, and we're going to check this out here and see how this is doing. Alright, the coffee's gone down a little bit. Maybe not quite as fast as I'd normally like it to. So you might get frustrated after a while and say to yourself, screw it. You know, and in this case, that's exactly what we're going to do. We got our screwdriver right here. And we're going to loosen this up a hair. And basically what that's doing is it's relieving some of the pressure that's, you know, between the screen and the inside of the coffee maker, so that the water can move a little bit more freely. We're going to put the lid back on and take a look in another couple minutes. Alright, now there's one last thing you can do if it's really stubborn. I mean, it's gotten down there pretty well, but it seems to be a bit logged up. One thing you can do is you can just take your spoon, pull some of the grinds off the screen. That'll allow the water to go through. You might feel it's kind of bumpy down there, like some of the larger pieces of the coffee it's expanded and it's plugging up those holes. So you can just kind of drag over that and free some of those holes up so that the water can get through. And if you really like, you can just take some of the grinds out, because at this point it's already brewed. You don't need coffee grinds in there, so you can always just spoon them out and throw them in the garbage. But if you don't, then basically you just kind of got to keep pulling it away from the screen at some point, keeping it in one area. And this will usually allow the coffee to finish dripping through pretty quickly. And there we go. It's pretty much done. Alright. Now it'll be a mess if you set this on whatever surface, table surface. So I just put this right on the lid itself. I'll take a different spoon that doesn't have coffee grinds all over it, and just stir this all together. You want to stir in the sweetened condensed milk. That's it. Vietnamese coffee.